Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the new devlog that just released today. Pretty much going to be going over stats of the new ship, which is going to be Independence, and also going to be taking a look at the other devlog, which goes over some of the changes on Essex and Yorktown. So, new ships, 12.10. 12.10 is the patch where the new commander skills are going to be revamped, and also 12.9 is going to be where Yorktown and Essex enter live server testing. This is going to be a closed test, so people who are not able to have access to test ships, they will not be able to play those new ships. So, update 12.10 brings 3 new ships. We're only interested in one, American aircraft carrier Independence. She is returning back from her RTS days and finally in our game in the reworked carrier days. Tier 6, she used to be a tier 5 in RTS, and she looks exactly the same. A fast light carrier built on the hull of a Cleveland class cruiser. 9 carriers of this class entered service in 1943, taking an active part in all US Navy operations in the Pacific during the last 2 years of the Second World War. Independence will join Yorktown and Essex as part of an upcoming US aircraft carrier tech tree line. So it's going to be Independence as tier 6, Yorktown tier 8, and Essex as tier 10 for the alternate branch of the US carriers, or also known as the support carrier line. The ship is armed with torpedo bombers, which need less time to reach optimal spread when dropping torpedoes compared to other carriers, especially the American carriers of the already existing branch, so in this case Ranger, Lexington, and Midway. This is pretty much going to be what they're describing here is going to be the same as what was described about Yorktown and Essex on the previous dev blog on their announcement. Everything's going to be pretty much the same. Single torpedo deals relatively low damage but enjoys high speed. Independence is also equipped with attack aircraft which fire a large number of HE rockets that have good chance to start fires. As for the ship's dive bombers, they have relatively low penetration and fire chance values, but there are numerous bombs per attacking flight. The ship will have access to 1 standard squadron, torpedo bombers, and 2 tactical squadrons, attack aircraft, and dive bombers, which have jet-assisted takeoff. So this is very interesting. Independence is going to be the first tier 6 carrier that we have in current carrier days with the JADO feature. I don't think any other carrier in the game has this for a tier 6. So this is going to be really good. A huge advantage over all the other carriers in the game because the JADO feature allows carriers who basically have a normal average cruising speed and top speed, they can rotate their strikes very quickly. As we all know from the Soviet line, the closer that they are, the faster, more intense rotations will be happening. But also, it drastically reduces the time that it takes to reach your destination when you are flying. So this is going to be really cool, a really cool feature for them to add on the Independence, and a very, very big advantage over the other carriers. Additionally, Independence can call upon a patrol fighter which can lock on quickly to enemy squadrons but suffers from a relatively low spotting range similar to Baron's fighters. As a result, these fighters take on a more defensive and interceptive role. Independence would not have access to smoke curtain generator consumable. You'll have the same fighters at the tier 8 and the tier 10 Yorktown and Essex. Basically, with the most recent changes to this new line, they changed the way how the patrol fighter is operating. Basically, they reduced or normalized the arrival time of that fighter, but they cut the intercepting time to latch on to enemy planes, I believe, by half. And with the combination of the fighter's 4-pointer skill enhanced reactions, you can get your attack tagging time down to half a second. which is pretty insane. So the moment someone touches that radius, that fighter or circle, they're basically gonna get it immediately tagged. So you basically want to be on your toes when facing one of these carriers. If they are taking ER, then definitely want to be on the lookout for their fighters and where they place them. The biggest thing here, though, for Independence is she doesn't have smoke. Now, smoke screen is going to be something new to this game for carriers to have access to, and now we know that only Yorktown and Essex are going to be having this smoke screen generator. So basically, this is kind of very, it's like half of a support carrier, and I don't really like how they're approaching this, because usually the lower tiers, like a tier 6 or the anything below tier 8, generally has less of the gimmicks of what the tier, the two of the highest tier of the line have. Usually it's either dispersion or a super heal or reload booster or any type of weird consumable like that, just for a balancing feature. But in this case, Independence is losing half of the personality of what the support carriers are supposed to be coming with, so I'm not too sure about their decision to not include a smokescreen. If anything, I feel like she should have been coming in without the Jado feature, because that's the same way how it is on the Soviet line. The Pobeda is the one that has the Jados as well as the Nakimov, but the Sirov does not have the Jados. So it's really interesting to see how they're leaving the Jados on the Independence, but they're not going to be equipping her with the smoke consumable. So this will be interesting to see how she performs. She'll definitely be more focused on dealing damage rather than the Yorktown or the Essex's focus, which is going to be mainly on your more supportive role, which I guess it makes sense in a way. I mean, not really. I don't agree with this decision, but if you view it as like, one way you can look at it is Independence tier 6. Tier 6 carriers are basically all about dealing damage and keeping up with the game. Of course, when you do face other tier 6s and tier 5s, you kind of just steamroll and just smash them. But when you are facing tier 8s, that's when the strike carriers usually struggle just a little bit, because tier 8 is starting to be where the anti-air starts to become overwhelming for certain tier 6 carriers, especially because the HP pool that the planes have and also the lack of heal on the torpedo bombers is it's kind of painful. So Independence with the Jado, definitely going to be something to look forward to. I feel like she'll be playing more to like a strike carrier. If anything, she seems, with this setup, if she has the same setup as Yorktown, definitely going to be looking a little bit stronger than the Ranger. I don't know how Ranger is supposed to be competing with the Independence. It's just a better alternate tech tree line, like a tech tree ship. So, all right, American aircraft carrier, Independence tier 6, 40k health, 16 millimeters. Your airstrike for ASW is 6 kilometers, nothing special. Anti-air, I mean, we don't really have to worry about this. Maximum speed 31 knots. Rudder shift 10 seconds. Surface detection is 9.9. Air detection is 9.0. Okay, so the main important things that we're looking for: attack aircraft. Hit points 1270, cruising speed 153 knots, maximum speed 193, size of the attacking flight 5, aircraft per squadron 5, restoration time is 80 seconds, detection is standard 10 kilometers, and number of aircraft on deck is 5. So the rockets and the bombers are going to be tactical, so whatever you fly off with, that's how much you're going to be having in your flight deck, which makes sense. So every 80 seconds you can launch these planes. Rockets and payload 6. Maximum rocket damage 1900. Armor penetration 27 millimeters, and chance to cause fire is 7%. So these are HFARs. These are not Tiny Tims like what Yorktown and Essex have. These are HFARs. So you have 5 planes. Each plane carries 6. So that's 30 planes, or sorry, 30 rockets. With 27 millimeters, I don't think that these are definitely not going to be used against battleships. But depending on how the reticle is, how large it is, and depending on how long that rocket machine gun animation time is, I feel like these would be really good with dealing with destroyers. These are a lot of rockets, and HFARs are always consistent. And these are, yeah, it's a lot of planes and a lot of rockets to be sending out at once. So if you find something that you can penetrate 27 millimeters, well, they can be doing a lot of damage. 7% fire chance. I mean, in the end, it's still all RNG, so not too important. Torpedo bombers, 1780. Cruising speed is 115 knots. Maximum speed is 150. Size of the attack. So this is going to be your standard squadron that you will have. You only have one standard squadron, and it's going to be torpedo bombers, just like the others in the same line. Size of the attacking flight is 2. Aircraft per squadron is 8. So you have 4 strikes. Aircraft restoration time is 70 seconds. The number of aircraft on deck is 16. So you have 2 total flights back to back. Okay. Torpedoes in payload is 1. So you have 2 torps per drop. So kind of like a Ranger. Maximum torpedo damage 4367. Aerial speed 43 knots. That's very fast for a US, but standard for Yorktown and Essex now. Maximum torpedo range is 3 kilometers. Torpedo arming distance is 577. Oof. I think Rangers is like low 400s. And hers are at 35 knots. 577 is pretty long. It's pretty far. 43 knots. It all just, they did say the time it takes to aim these torpedoes, the reticle is much shorter than what is standard on the other line, the main line of aircraft carriers for the United States. So we'll see. It also depends on this torpedo dispersion, because we all know that 2 torpedo drops is kind of wonky to use, because the torpedo dispersion, even if you have it aimed down all the way, it can go to the farthest ends of that reticle and it could just make you whiff. But 43 knots at tier 6 and tier 7, potentially sometimes tier 8, you can really bully some battleships. I think they also said the flood chance is really high as well, no? Let's see. Need less time to reach optimal spread, low damage, high speed. They do not talk about the flooding here. I do not know. Let me see. Flood. Nope. No, nothing about the flood. Low damage but high speed. Okay, that's unfortunate. So I'm gonna have to ask Wargaming about the flood chance, or just data mine it. We gotta see what the flood chance is on this. But 43 knots at low tiers is pretty good. A lot of battleships are very slow and have pretty bad turning. So torpedoes as your main squadron, definitely going to be a squadron that you're going to want to conserve. Don't want to just be throwing out there, because these are all you got. If you lose these, you just gotta wait for your tacticals or to come back up, and that's not going to be a very fun time. Dive bombers. Okay, hit points 2400, extremely tanky. Cruising speed 117, maximum speed is 152 knots. Very slow. A little bit faster than torpedo bombers though. Size of attacking flight 6. Okay, restoration time 101 seconds. So what's that? 1 minute and 40 something. 141. 1 minute and 41 seconds. So 6 planes. Bombs in payload 1. HE bomb, maximum damage 6200, 42 millimeters of penetration, 35% fire chance. So that's much less than the Yorktown and the Essex, but I mean it's tier 6, right? These are very tanky planes. Not much to really say about the dive bombers other than wondering what the reticle is going to be like, because we saw that Yorktown, sorry, not Yorktown, Essex has FDR planes for her bombers. And the reticle, it all just comes down to that reticle. What kind of reticle those bombs are going to be, what kind of animation the attacking animation is going to be. It all just matters on that. So we just gotta wait and see and hope for the best. But 6 bombs, pretty good. Better than 3 bombs that Ranger drops, of course. I honestly hate Ranger. Like, it's so inconsistent. The damage is there, but it's way too inconsistent. But I feel like Yorktown or like Independence is gonna be just a straight upgrade over the Ranger. Global consumables, fighter, damage control party. But yeah, there we go. Independence. Kind of excited to see how she plays out, but we'll be able to see in 2 patches from now. So really excited. Independence was a carrier that I played in RTS and I enjoyed, but I enjoyed Zuiho a lot more between the 2 of these, Zuiho and Independence. But my experience with her was pretty limited since I did take a long break after I started playing the game. But it's nice to see her back for sure. It's really nice to see familiar faces. Alright, and here we go with the changes to test ships 12.9. So, Michelangelo, we can ignore this. It's getting nerfed. But the main thing we're looking at is Yorktown to Essex changes. American aircraft carriers Yorktown, Tier 8, and Essex, Tier 10, remove the preparation time for tactical attack aircraft and dive bomber squadrons at the start of the battle. They will now be ready to use immediately at the start of the battle. This is a beautiful change. This basically opens up more possibilities for the Yorktown and Essex to just more routes to take with how they want to play their game. And being limited to only 1 squadron at the start of your game is very painful because you don't have a lot of choices to make when you're using torpedo bombers at the very start. And so them allowing the carrier player to pick any of the squadrons that they want to at the start of the battle is a very good change. And because generally speaking, for American carrier, you don't want to take your torpedo bombers at the very start of the game because they're slow. In this case, especially, they're your only squadron that you have, your only standard squadron. So what it seems like here is you can get these 2 tactical squadrons out there immediately, start the countdown on the regeneration process for both of them, and then you can allow yourself to play more freedom, basically. Because now you're gonna have 3 squadrons to use at the start, which is pretty good. So looking forward to this change once it hits live servers. Definitely making a good change here. And you know, seeing the previous devblog of them announcing changes to the skill tree for cruisers, battleships, and destroyers, it makes me wonder what they have in store for aircraft carrier skills. And they did say that they were gonna, a bit later, they're gonna be working on the carrier ones. So I have high hopes that a lot of the skills in the carrier tree will be changed or buffed. A few specific ones I'm pretty sure you all know, that I'm pretty sure every carrier knows, you know, like Hidden Menace. That thing needs to be changed or reworked or straight up buffed with no debuff, or like just buffed with no negatives to it, and it'll be worth 4 points. But yeah, just hoping. Really excited for these new carriers and how they're going to be playing out with the current meta of extremely strong strike carriers. So we just gotta wait and see. 12.9 is right around the corner, and soon 12.10 afterwards. Maybe we'll be able to see the carrier commander skills changes hopefully soon. Till then, this concludes this video of going over the new carrier Independence and the changes to the tier 8 and the tier 10 of the alternate branch. Hope you guys have a good one, and I will see you guys later.